Today we have a current student in our on-campus course visiting us, Irene Lee. She comes from the Boston area, is
Yes.
that right? And is not only currently taking our course, but is also a senior in an interdisciplinary program here at Cornell, writing a senior project on food and local food cultures and so forth, related to your other big project in life, which is running a restaurant together with your sister and your brother, is that right?
Yes.
Up in Boston. But also sourcing some of your food from the piggery where you work when you're here in Ithaca.
Exactly.
So thanks, Irene, for coming.
Thank you
and
so much
being
for
willing
having
to
me.
talk to us. Irene actually gave a TEDx talk at Wellesley College last year, which we'll link to. Maybe you could give us just a brief synopsis of what you were talking about there in the talk and how it relates to some of the work you're doing in the senior project.
Definitely. So the TEDx talk was really about introducing people to the work that we were doing through the food truck and the restaurant, and also some of the social problems that we were concerned about and the ways that as a small business we were trying to combat them. So I grew up in Boston, started at Cornell in 2008, really fell in love with the farmers market here, the culture of food, and just how sort of vibrant and wacky the community of farmers is in Ithaca. And then I took 3 years off of school, mainly to be with my family, and then through a series of events we ended up opening a food truck, and then a year and a half later opening a small restaurant. So the TED Talk really focused on sort of our story as a family and how my brother and sister and I had been in very different places with different passions and academic backgrounds, and we sort of came together and started that business.
Had you done a lot of cooking beforehand?
Before we opened the business, I was sort of an obsessive home cook,
Okay.
which is really nothing like cooking professionally, as I, of course, learned. But when I was living in Ithaca, I met a bunch of farmers and started visiting a Mennonite slaughterhouse near here called Shirks, and getting really interested in whole animals. I actually bought a chest freezer for my tiny apartment, and
What does that mean, getting interested in whole animals?
I think for me, that really meant figuring out, like, oh, what is a pork chop and where does it come from? And how is that related to bacon? And is bacon the same as pork belly? And it kind of seems like maybe they're attached. So really getting curious about how that worked.
So going beyond the little diagrams.
Exactly, yeah, and seeing the diagram in real life. And so one of the most fun things I did my whole junior year was invest in half of a pig for my freezer. And so I learned a lot about cooking and a lot about pork.
Wow. And so this is the slaughterhouse that the piggery used for a long time, is that
Yeah,
right?
that's Shirks, exactly.
Okay. And you also then started working at the piggery during those years, your early years here? Or?
At that time, we were just friends with Brad and Heather, and we thought what they were doing was really awesome. And I don't know if I'm sure you've eaten some of their pork, but they are raising some of the most amazing pork that I've ever tasted. And we've worked with a lot of farmers in the Boston area, and we really think that what Heather and Brad are doing is very, very special. So we were just big fans at that time.
So both from a taste perspective and from a kind of ethical perspective.
Absolutely.
Right. And so then you take some time off, go up to Boston, and decide to start investigating the local foodscape up there?
Yeah, it's funny. You know, I was going home to a city that I knew quite well, but I had never really analyzed the landscape in terms of food or local food. So I started exploring different farmers markets, trying to figure out which grocery stores carried items that I might want to cook with, and really just kind of trying to immerse myself in that culture.
And you're still thinking just cooking for yourself and friends and family at that point?
Exactly, yeah. And then once we started thinking about running our own food business, we sort of looked around and saw that a lot of the amazing local food energy that we had been inspired by in Ithaca was a little bit different in Boston. Certainly there were a lot of chefs cooking with local ingredients, there were a ton of awesome farmers, but one thing that we noticed was that they were a little few and far between, and they were also cooking in restaurants with white tablecloths that you would probably pay a lot of money to eat at. And so hand in hand with the idea of a food truck being casual and fun and having a sort of street fair vibe to it was the idea that maybe we would try to bring a different kind of local food to the public, in that it would be something they could eat for lunch for under $10.
And why did you go for a truck first? Just because real estate in Boston is so expensive?
Real estate in Boston is definitely expensive. And another aspect of that is that my brother had worked in fine dining restaurants as a dining room manager, and I think he was sick of wearing a suit. And so he wanted to sort of be out there on the streets wearing whatever outfit he wanted, which he still does, of course. And he wanted to really be face-to-face with the customer in a different way.
I thought that becoming a philosophy professor meant I didn't have to wear a tie, you know, but once in
dear.
a while I do. So. And the restaurant's called Mei Mei.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mei Mei means baby sister or little sister in Chinese, and it's our oldest brother and his two little sisters, and we wanted to communicate that our family is Chinese and we grew up eating some Chinese food, but we also didn't want it to be so overt because what we do is not traditional, so we sort of pushed past the jade dragon, lucky garden, etc. And then we also wanted to really communicate that we're a family business and that we value relationships, and you know, when people walk into the dining room or they walk up to the food truck, we want our service to say, "You're family, we're all family here." Everyone in the food system really is family, and that we think those relationships are what makes food even more powerful and delicious.